They say that happiness is a choice and that it depends on ourselves, but happiness can only happen when what we think, what we say, and what we do is in harmony. And that doesn't mean it's easy to achieve by any means, but it does mean that so much of happiness is within our control. Often, some of the reasons we become unhappy is that we get stuck in loops of things that seem very important or urgent things, and we can succumb to fear and negativity, all of which makes it harder to cultivate a positive mindset. It often feels like only achieving some radical change or large milestone in the future, that once we reach that, we will finally unlock true happiness and be able to relax. But often, it's actually something that's much more subtle, it's much more unexciting. It's like the little things in life that really make a big difference and a lasting difference over the course of every day of your life. So I thought today I would go through some of the smaller things that you can use with intention that will actually genuinely make you a slightly happier person. Because when you add all these little nudges up, it can really move the needle to be a more positive person. And when you become more positive, you become more content and more resilient. And who doesn't want that? So, hello and welcome to the Growth Mindset Podcast. I am your host, Samuel Webster Harris. Today, we are diving into psychology of self-improvement and happiness and going to talk about some actionable ways to reframe our thinking that will genuinely make you happier. Now, happiness often starts with how we speak to others and how we speak to ourselves. And so in this episode, I'm going to cover 6 phrases that you can actually use that will genuinely make you a happier person by just changing the type of dialogue and discourse that you have with other people and that you have with yourself. And to crack right into it, we'll start with the first one, and that's by saying the phrase, I get to, instead of saying I have to or I must. This is a really powerful way to start cultivating a mindset of gratitude and opportunity. When you don't have to go to the gym, but you get to go to the gym. If you don't have to see someone about your back pain, but you get to, you realize that it's not something that should be taken for granted, like the fact that you have someone available who's there to help you with your back pain. And even though you may be annoyed and depressed about your back pain, it's still an opportunity to do something better that like some people in the world don't have. This is the benefit of living in the modern day with the most advanced medicine to this point in time available in human history ever. Whereas most of us don't think about these little things and we're like, oh, my back hurts, I just have to go and like sort this out. When actually it sounds like a really terrible chore and like we're having a bad day. We don't realize how much luck there is in our life for us to be grateful for. Again, you don't have to check in on your screaming toddler that you thought was asleep. You get to check in on them. And that reminds you that in a few years' time, you might miss the fact that you get to hug your toddler whilst they're crying. And realizing that one extra night might be good for both of you to hang out as opposed to being annoyed about these things. And it's genuinely the same for any kind of chore that you kind of have in your list of chores or things that feel like a burden. Maybe like getting exercise or eating healthy food feels like a difficult thing for you and you'd rather sit around and eat cake. But people are already approaching the entire thing like it's a negative, terrible thing. When instead, if you frame it as you get to work out or you get to eat this nice healthy food, it's a choice that you're actively taking and you're recognizing the opportunity in your life for all these things that you could be doing that are better. No, in the same way, like I run this podcast. Now, I have to record this podcast before I go trekking for the next 2 weeks and I can't record any podcasts. But in the same way, I get to record this podcast, which is a nice thing to do this afternoon whilst I'm talking about happiness. And in general, I get to run a podcast where if I do my work ahead of time, I can go and take 2 weeks off and go running around the bloody Himalayas. And that's awesome. And instead of being like annoyed that I'm not going around some local village this afternoon, I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty grateful for the fact I get to record this podcast and that it's actually a wider part of the whole experience here in the Himalayas that I'm getting to do. So anyway, instead of saying I have to, say I get to. And now, phrase number 2. What was your rose? This is something that we've been doing every night here in the Himalayas as part of this mountain guiding course that I'm doing for 3 months. And it's generally a lovely experience for all of us. And everybody knows that gratitude makes people happier and also physically healthier. And using this thing that's called the rose, thorn, bud game with others is a really nice way to incorporate gratitude into your day and connect with others. So a thorn is a problem that you had, something that didn't go your way, something that's like a bit annoying. And you might be like, oh, saying anything negative is bad. But it can be nice to tell others why you had a bad day and what's wrong. It also gives you a chance to get things off your chest. And then you say your rose, which is any wins for the day, highlights, simple pleasures. And sure, when days are really going your way, all you'll have is roses and you won't have any thorns. And that's really nice as well. Often when you talk about some of the thorns that you have, you'll recognize some of the opportunities for the roses, the good moments of your day as well that came from the thorns. Like maybe your feet hurt, but someone helped you out with some like spare socks or something. And you're like, oh, there was a bad thing, but actually you've become grateful for all the good things that are happening around you at the same time. And then a bud is something that you want to do more of. Okay, this is a cool thing. I want to grow this thing into like more of a project, like maybe doing solo episodes on my podcast is a bud. I want to do more solo episodes. Maybe going hiking is a bud. I want to become better at hiking and lead more hiking expeditions, etc. But it genuinely is like a really nice thing to do with others. And doing it with our whole group here in the Himalayas, it's been a really nice way for us to hear about other people's highlights and their problems and to just share the things that make you smile every day. If you've never done it before, it might feel like a little bit forced to start with, like just to make it happen. But as soon as you start going, it's really nice. And we've had some of the days off here where there's been no reason to do it. And we'd be like, oh, should we do it? And people are like, oh, why would we do that? And then we do it. And everyone's like, oh my God, it was so nice to be able to talk about the things that they did that was like a spectacular day because it was a day off and they went and did something silly. And it's a really nice way for everyone to tell each other stories and just not sit around being bored. It's great and makes you more grateful because you just recognize the things in your day to be grateful for. In the same way that they say you should journal or meditate each evening to gather more gratitude for your day, actually just talking to people about what you're grateful for is an obvious thing to do and actually a really nice thing that I really would recommend to anybody. And on the subject of talking to each other, the third phrase to use is tell me more. So if someone opens up about something that they care about, and they might often have a problem that they're trying to explain. Now, humans naturally want to help others, but usually when they're helping others, they'll want to solve their problems or give them advice. Now, instead of jumping to solving someone else's problems, we can simply say the words, tell me more. And by doing that, we are freely offering our time and our energy to listen to them. Now, this opens up space for the other person to process their feelings with that person, process their thoughts, and it's a much better way of deepening a relationship with someone and bringing you closer. Because if you tell people what to do, it makes them feel like you think that they are stupid because they don't understand what to do. And it gives the appearance that you think that you know best and are just much better than them at everything, rather than that you care about them and caring about how they feel. Even though you might care about them and you're trying to solve their problems for them, it just by proxy makes them feel a bit stupid. So by letting them open up first and listening to them, you're offering them your time to help them work out what they should do about their problem. Or maybe they just want to get some things off their chest and feel heard and listened to. Often, just having someone listen to what your problems are makes the whole thing less of a problem. So before you jump in with a solution, ask yourself if this person needs a solution or if they need soothing. As a general rule, just start with asking them to tell you more before you give any solutions. Next phrase, number 4. This is the classic growth mindset one, which is finishing your sentences with the word yet. Now, this is a fundamental growth mindset turn of phrase. And whenever you say any form of negative statement, you should always finish the sentence with the word yet. I can't do it yet. I don't have enough money yet. I'm not talented or clever enough yet. By adding this little word to the end of any sentence that begins with the words I don't, I can't, I'm not, etc., it's really powerful. And even if you just think it inside mentally, the word yet just keeps the door of possibility slightly open. And the phrases that we're using when we say, oh, I can't do this, I'm not good enough at that. When we say these things, we're trying to shut the door of possibility. We're blocking off that path for the rest of time, saying that we're just never going to walk down it, we're never going to be able to. But by saying the word yet, we're keeping it open. We always keep the element of opportunity to do better, to go further down that path. And the word yet just makes it clear that there's possibility in your future that you will overcome the current problems, the current blockers. It's just a matter of time and work to get there. I can't climb Everest yet, but I could. And that's an exciting and motivating thought for me to keep going with trekking and becoming better at the whole mountain guide thing. And now the word yet and general possibility opening is something that's great to also use with kids because it helps them learn to turn setbacks into opportunities to learn more. I'm not good at maths yet. I can't dance yet. I don't like doing art yet. And you might annoy your kid by saying this, but after a while it will seep into their consciousness and it will change the way they see possibility and how they see themselves and what they can achieve. Number 5 is asking yourself, will this thing matter a year from now? This is a question that relates to a topic I've often spoken about on the podcast, which is the value of zooming out. And when you use the question, if this will matter a year from now or even 5 years from now, it really gives you some more perspective. As humans, we get so caught up in the moment or just stressing about like tomorrow or yesterday. And our emotions can often overwhelm us with worry and panic, and we'll feel like a situation will be a major problem for like the whole of our life. When actually, it's something that really won't matter in a year's time. And if we thought about something that happened similarly like a year ago, we've probably completely forgotten about it and it's not that important. And yet we just don't see the opportunity for being calm. Anxiety is an emotion that's increasingly common these days, and it happens to so many of us. And just even little things like showing up 10 minutes late or forgetting to email a colleague and worrying that you're going to look dumb emailing them 1 week late, etc. That happened to me all the time, to the point where I basically stopped emailing people because I stopped having a job. Or other examples like not getting a reply from a friend that you text and you're just worrying what's going on. When you start to notice that you're feeling some stress and feeling some anxiety and it's weighing you down and it's perhaps slowing you down as well, just take a deep breath and think about the situation at large. Will this thing that you've got caught up about actually matter a year from now? Even breakups don't matter perhaps a year from now and you'll be grateful for them, etc. So when you zoom out and ask yourself if this really matters in the long term, and when you give yourself space to zoom out and ask yourself if something will truly matter in the long term, it's important to just try and hold that concept in your head of the fact that it's not the end of the world, and bring that back to you into the present and just show up with some more positivity and awareness that a lot of the little things aren't something to panic about, aren't something to stress about, aren't something to be angry about or anxious about. And that there's not that much long-term serious situations that you actually encounter with day to day that are really going to ruin your life. And it just makes you feel a little bit more chilled out, more happy, more willing to just engage with what's going on and take some risks. And it helps you remember that there's plenty of future opportunities coming down the road for you to change things in a positive way. So remember when you're getting overwhelmed, just to ask yourself if this will truly matter a year from now. And then lastly, we have the phrase, I will focus on X. Now, as I've said, the modern day is filled with anxiety. It's also filled with distraction. Text messages, social media, 3 different email addresses, or maybe 10 different email addresses, pinging calendar notifications going off and off and off, and just lots of different events and crazy news going on in the world. And then, of course, there's the things that actually engage you positively and the things that you want to learn. And it's an endless list. Even though there is an endless list of things you could be doing, it doesn't have to be an infinite hill that you have to just keep on climbing and keep on climbing every day. Distraction and decision fatigue make it a lot harder to be happy, makes it a lot harder to be effective, and just reduces your overall sense of well-being. It genuinely makes sense to reduce your options and just focus on fewer things. Instead of bouncing around the day from one thing to the next, take a minute, write down what you need to focus on just for today as your biggest single thing, and just make sure that you do that thing and just don't think about anything else until it's done. When you plan out your main focus task for the day, instead of having multiple things eating into each other, it keeps you reliable at completing one important thing. And it's massively stress relieving to feel a sense of progress when that thing gets done, and to feel like you just know that each day you are going to get something useful done. Because often when we're bouncing around so much trying to keep up, we actually feel like we're going backwards, and it is genuinely depressing and stress-inducing. But if you feel like you're going to get something useful done each day, you can genuinely feel a sense of empowerment and a sense of usefulness and a sense of happiness from achieving something. So make sure that you just have like one small goal that is your important thing for the day that is achievable and will make an impactful step in the direction that you want to be going in. It will just genuinely make you happier, and that is a fact. Now, I might add that like deleting Instagram or Facebook from your phone and just reducing distractions in general will really help here. I personally had Instagram deleted for most of this year, which was absolutely lovely. But as I'm in the Himalayas, I have been posting a lot of my different adventures and have been using it most days, which has actually just added a background level of stress and like preoccupation and distraction, which has been kind of annoying. But at the same time, I am making lots of memories, so it's nice to be able to use it. But as soon as I get back to like more normal everyday life, like I definitely have no intention of keeping it on my phone, because it just eats at your attention in a way that I'm just not happy about. Anyway, the point here is to set yourself one important goal for the day and not overwhelm yourself, and try to remove some of the distractions in your life, because overall it will make you genuinely feel better and feel happier. And so reminding yourself that you will focus on this one thing today was a really powerful way to get happier. So thank you so much for listening. Those were 6 phrases to make you a happier person who has a better attitude and growth mindset and does more of the stuff they love and feels grateful for it. If you enjoyed the episode, then please slam a good review onto Apple, Spotify, and or YouTube, because that would make me happier. But I'll be busy using these 6 phrases, so it's not the end of the world, because I'll be happy anyway. And then more importantly, remember that happiness and enjoyment is not a future goal. It is a way of life, it is a way of being, and it is something that happens every day. Don't put off being the person you want to be until you've achieved some kind of metric of success in the future. You need to start being the person you want to be now. So be kind to yourself, and whilst you're at it, be kind to someone else too.